Does it taste like?
Chapter 4.1, transformations. Okay, we've been doing transformations. That's what we had done on Friday before we left. Now, today what we're doing is we're going to be doing transformations only of y equals x squared. What does y equals x squared look like?
Y, the U.
A U or a horseshoe, correct? A U or a horseshoe. The vertex is the point of the problem where the graph changes directions and creates a maximum or a minimum point. If it's creating a maximum point, that means it's opening down. If it's creating a minimum point, that means it's opening up. Do you understand that?
No.
How do we locate a vertex? Well, that's by doing our horizontal and vertical shifts. Be up, down, left, right. If I'm going up and down, that's on the y-axis. If I'm going left and right, it's on the x-axis and it's inside the parentheses. The standard form of the equation. A is always still going to be your stretch. H and K is where you're going to get your vertex from. Do we understand that? Yes or no?
C.
Those three values are the values that we're very much talking about today. Okay? Now, on your paper, folks, there's a typo. Your paper says minus K. Please make sure you take care of that. Last night it was 10 o'clock whenever I was typing out notes, and yeah.
That's
how
honestly.
Line up. Axis of symmetry is an invisible vertical line going through the vertex of a parabola. What happens when you go through the vertex of a parabola? It creates symmetrical sides of the graph. Meaning, the right-hand side, if you fold it over that dotted line, is going to lie directly on top of the left-hand side of the graph. Do we understand that? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Now, equation for the axis of symmetry, it's an equation, folks. It's a vertical line equation, and it's going to be x equals h every time. Don't just tell me h, don't just say k, or x equals, say x equals h, whatever the h value is. Okay, now we're going to jump right into this, and the first thing you're going to tell me is you're not going to read the instructions. Yes, I know they're very small on your paper. If you want to complain about it, I will not print off any notes for you ever again.
Perfect time.
Absolutely. Now, if we have f of x is equal to negative 2 times x minus 1 quantity squared plus 3, tell me what is going on with this thing from left to right. What's the negative do?
It is reflecting across the x-axis.
Reflected over the x. Very good.
It's
What's
going
the 2?
Stretch 2.
Stretch of 2.
Down, right 1.
Right 1.
Up 3.
Up 3. Now, that's all the information we can get out of that, but that's all the information we need. You know why? Because everything else can come straight out of that lovely information. So if I get number 1, or letter A is going to be my vertex. Well, if I'm talking about my vertex, what is my vertex here? My vertex is going to be my horizontal and vertical shift. Horizontally, I'm going to the right, 1 unit. Right would mean what type of values? Positive. So I have a positive 1. Up would mean going up the x-axis. Mean what type of values? Positive 3. So there's my vertex, 1, 3.
That's awesome.
What's my axis of symmetry? Axis of symmetry is AOS. And that's an equation. And what equation is that? X equals h. What is h? 1. Very good. Letter C, is this thing reflected, meaning have a maximum, or does it have a minimum? Well, you said it's reflected over the x, so therefore does it have a max or a min? It has a max. Is it compressed or stretched? Stretched by 2. And horizontal shift? A horizontal shift.
3. No.
Right 1.
You need to
What's my vertical shift?
Up 3.
Up 3. Now, let's stop there because now we need to do domain and range. So I'm going to add another slide here. Okay? If I have y is equal to x squared, what we have going on here is a u going through the point 0, 0, which would mean I have a minimum value. Do we understand that? If I have a minimum value there, this indicates that my vertex is going to be the point 0, 0. And more importantly, I want to talk about domain. My domain is talking about all the x values that have a corresponding y value to it. Now, these have arrows on them. And those arrows indicate that it goes all the way up through the ceiling, off the board, up through the ceiling, up into space, up into the heavens, right? Okay, so we're clear up there. Do I have corresponding y values to all those x's? Yes. What's the lowest possible x value that I can have?
0.
Negative infinity.
Really?
Right. Negative.
What?
Negative infinity.
Negative infinity. And what's my highest possible x value?
Infinity.
Positive infinity. This means that x is an element of the reals. Okay? That means x can be any real number that it wants to be. Okay? Now what's my range of this thing? Well, my range deals with my y values, correct? So I want to know the lowest possible y value that has a corresponding x value to it. So as I'm coming up the y-axis, what's the first y value that has an x value to it? 0. And what's the highest y value that has a corresponding x value? Infinity. So what you're telling me is this thing can be 0, so I have a bracket, and it goes all the way to infinity. Another way to write this is that y is greater than or equal to 0. What is 0? 0 happens to be the y coordinate, which is the actual k value. So y is greater than or equal to k. Do we understand that? That is all for when I have x squared, meaning I have a minimum value. Now what about whenever I have y is equal to negative x squared? That means I'm opening down. Yes, that means I'm opening down. And I have the vertex 0, 0. And this time, instead of having a minimum, I'm now going to have a maximum. And what's my vertex? Still 0, 0. What's my domain? Well, just like before, these go on, but instead of going all the way up to the heavens, they go all the way to the floor, all the way down to the place we don't like, right? Yeah. And my question to you is, what value was my lowest x value that has a corresponding y value? Negative infinity. And then what's my highest possible x value that has a corresponding y? Infinity. It goes out clear in both directions. Now, what I want you to understand is that the domains of x squared versus negative x squared are what? The same. So do you ever have to worry about domain anymore?
No. Yeah.
Or only the x squared? It's always the same. Now, what's my range? Well, my range is dealing with which values? The y values. And the y values here are going to be, what's my smallest y value? Negative infinity, because it goes all the way down, right? So my smallest y value is going to be negative infinity. Why can't I draw that today? And it's going to go all the way to what value?
Positive.
Really? Because I think it stops right here at this
Oh,
maximum
0.
point, which is going to be 0. Which means y is going to be less than or equal to 0, which means y is less than or equal to k. So what changed here? The thing that changed is going to be your lovely little range. Do we understand that? The range is the only thing that changed. Okay? Now, I put this here, and it's also on the board over here, so you can look at it the entire time. Do we understand this? Because as we go back over here to finish this problem up, the problem that I have for you is what is the domain of this function?
Whoa.
Well, is it an x squared?
Yes.
Yes, if it's an x squared, what's my domain?
No. No.
Negative infinity to infinity. That's my domain. X is now with the real, so negative infinity to infinity. Now, what's my range? My range is going to depend upon if it's a maximum or a minimum. So does this thing have a max or a min? But we said it has a max, right? So since it has a max, it looks like a mountain. And where does that mountain start at? At negative infinity. And where does that mountain stop at?
Whenever.
At the 3, which is going to be your y value. Which means y is less than or equal to 3. Do we understand that, yes or no?
It's
Let's do it again, shall we? Okay, what's the 3 tell me? It is stretched by 3. What's the 7 do?
go left.
Left 7? Down 8. That's all I can get out of there, right?
Yeah.
So from there I can go straight to finding everything else. So now, A is my vertex. What's my vertex? Well, I'm going to the left 7, so that's -7. I'm going down 8, so that's going to be -8. What's my axis of symmetry? X equals -7. Why is it -7? Because it says X equals, and what's the X coordinate of the vertex? It has to be H, which is your -7. C, is it going to be reflected, meaning have a max, or is it going to have a min?
Min.
Why is it having a min? Well, it ain't reflected, so therefore it has to have a min. D, stretched or compressed? Stretch of 3. E, horizontal shift. Left 7.
Yes.
F, vertical shift. Down 8. And G, the domain. What is it? X is an element of the reals because it's negative infinity to infinity, correct? And then H is your range. Now, my range depends upon if it's a max or a min. And what is this?
Min.
A min. So is it a mountain or a valley?
It is definitely.
A valley. So where is the first part of this valley that you're going to hit first coming from the very bottom of the y-axis? You're going to hit it at the K value, and that K value is? So it starts at -8, and where does it stop at? It stops at infinity, which means y is greater than or equal to a -8. Do you see what I see?
Stop.
Why, yes, I am, Mr. Thanks.
Yeah, you.
Okay, that is the front page of your homework for tonight. Do you all understand what I expect out of you tonight on your homework? To the front. Is that difficult stuff?
Yeah.
Not really. It's stuff you've already been doing. So, now, this is section 4.2. We just covered 4.1. Now we're going to cover 4.2. Oh, this tutor's doing 2 sections in one day.
No, we can't do that.
We are. Pressure. Crack under it. No, I wouldn't pressure. Okay, now I have 4-2. Given f of x is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. This is your lovely new definition of a parabola. You used to have the standard form of y equals ax, a times x minus h quantity squared plus k. Now we have ax squared plus bx plus c. Now, a is still going to be your stretch. A is still going to be your vertical stretch or your compress factor, okay? However, the vertex is not just floating out there for you to pick out, right? Because you can't see the up, down, left, right, can you? So what you have to do is you have to find another way. Well, the other way you're going to find it is by using the formula. The x-coordinate is equal to -b over 2a, and that the y-coordinate is f at -b over 2a. Well, what is f the same thing as? Y. So what you're doing is you're simply plugging and chugging. You're plugging and chugging your x-coordinate in to find your y-coordinate. An example, shall we? I give you y is equal to 2x squared plus 10x plus 7. What do I have to find to be able to do use these formulas?
X coordinate.
I need to find the x-coordinate, but the x-coordinate has a, b, and c's in it, right? So I need to find out what a, b, and c are. A is what value? It's the vertical stretch, but what is it in this formula? It's 2. What is b? 10. And what is c? 7. A is the coefficient of the x squared. B is the coefficient of the x term. And c is your constant term. Okay? You better find something now before you get the wrath of me, boy.
I might have a dime in my pocket.
Now, if I give you A is 2, B is 10, and C is 7, the first thing we have to do is we have to find our x-coordinate. So to find our x-coordinate, that's -b over 2a. That's what x is defined to be. -b over 2a. So what is b here?
10.
So this actually gives me -10 over 2. What's a here?
2.
2. So what I'm going to have here It's negative 10 over 4, which reduces down to be
Don't know.
negative 5 over 2. So negative 5 is our x coordinate. What's another name for x here?
I don't know.
Vertex and vertex. What's another name for x? H. H and x are the same thing. So what this means is this x is equal to negative 5 over 2, which is the same thing as h. So now, I need to now find my y. Well, my y coordinate is the same thing as f at negative b over 2a. But what is negative b over 2a? That's f at negative 5 over 2. Well, what is f defined to be? What's another name for f? Y. Well, what's y? 2x squared plus 10x plus 7. So every place I see an x, what do I plug in place of it? So the negative 5 over 2 goes here, and it goes here. Do we all understand that? Yes or no? Put y in. I can make you do it all by hand. Oh, no. So I plug in 2 times negative 5 over 2 squared plus 10 times negative 5 over 2 plus 7. Now, that's a lot of fractions, is it not? Now, I want to make this abundantly clear. Many of you do not know how to do fractions still. No matter how many times I've taught them to you or how many times the teacher has taught them to you over your lifespan here in the education system, you still despise fractions. Now, I'm not testing you over whether or not you know how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide fractions. What I'm testing you over is, can you find the vertex form of an equation given y equals ax squared plus bx plus c? Right? So I don't care if you want to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. I expect you to know how to do it at this point. Which means if you don't, what you need to do is you need to grab your calculator. You want a calculator page, and you need to type in that information. That information is going to be 2 parentheses. What was our lovely x? Negative 5 divided by 2, arrow to the right, squared, plus 10 times negative 5 divided by 2, arrow to the right, plus 7, and hit enter. And what is my y value? Negative 11 over 2. Should you all be able to get that without using the calculator? Yeah, you should. But how many of you are going to get that? Maybe half of you. So this is going to give you negative 11 over 2. This is your y coordinate, which is the same thing as k. So now I found k, and now I found h, which is the same thing as x and y. And now what did the problem ask you to put it in the form of? Vertex form. Well, vertex form is this lovely little thing. Y is equal to a times x minus h squared plus k. So y is equal to, what's a? 2. Logan, sit up. This is minus h. So minus, what's h? So minus a negative is a positive 5 over 2. And what's k? Minus 11 over 2. This is what you're looking for. Because now, can I get everything I need out of that equation? Can I get my vertex, my axis of symmetry, my domain, my range, my left, right, left, up, down, left, right? Yeah. Okay, let's do it again, shall we? Are we ready?
Where do you know everything?
Okay.
No whining. Can't wait for the rest of the week, then really gonna blow your mind. Yoo-hoo!
Is it too late to switch classes?
Okay. This is number 13 out of your textbook, which is also a homework problem. I repeat, this is a homework problem. Now, I'm asking you to do A, vertex, B, axis of symmetry, C, max spin, D. You do not have to do the domain. Why do you not have to do the domains? Because they're all an element of the real. and then the range, and then write vertex form. So what do I have to do first here?
Get the vertex.
I need the vertex in order to do all of this. So to find the vertex, I have to label what first?
A, B, C.
A, B, and C. So what's A? B is, and C is. Excellent. So, now what do I do?
You did find the x coordinate first.
The x-coordinate is going to equal negative b over 2a. What's b, folks? So I have a negative times negative 3 over 2. What's a? Negative 2. And negative times negative 3 is going to be positive 3 over negative 4. This is going to be my x, which is my h. Do we understand that? Yay, nays.
Yay.
Yeah.
Why do we
What do you
need
mean,
to know
no?
that that's B?
Because what's the vertex always and forever?
Oh.
HK. Do you? Come over here.
I understand.
That's not true. So now that I found my x-coordinate, which is also known as the h of the ordered pair, vertex HK. Now what? Find my y. So y is going to be equal to f at negative b over 2a, which is going to be f at what?
Negative. It would be positive 3 over negative 4.
Doesn't matter where you put the negative as long as the whole thing fraction is negative. Now, what is f defined to be? It's the same thing as y. What is y here? Negative 2 times negative 3/4 squared minus 3 times negative 3/4 plus 4. Okay, now what? Go back to your lovely little calculator because Lord knows you all hate.
I don't know if the word here, Hunter, possible.
So, a is negative 2, parenthesis, negative 3 divided by 4, arrow to the right, squared, minus 3, parenthesis, negative 3 divided by 4, arrow to the right, plus 4. Enter. And what do you get?
41 over 8.
Sorry.
41 over 8 is going to be your y value. So that is your y value. What is that also known as? K.
Would it be 8? So,
You would know that if you would be talking.
I'm thinking about that.
Okay, so all of that said, what should I find first? Because it'll be a whole lot easier if I find this first, right? Should probably find your vertex form, right? Because if I find my vertex form, I can find everything else. So this is actually our last letter, which is going to be F. My vertex form is y is equal to a times x minus h squared plus k. So what's a? Negative 2. What's x? That stays. What's h? Negative 3/4, so minus a negative is a. Positive 4, 3/4, sorry. Squared. And what is k? 41 over 8. This is your vertex form. Now, what's my vertex? Negative 3/4, 41 over 8. What's my axis of symmetry?
X equals.
Thank you. Yoder's a picky one, ain't she? Max or min, folks? Max, because it's negative. A is negative. Then it says to do the range. So what's my range? My range says that since this thing is a maximum, I have a mountain, and what's the lowest possible value I'm going to come across first?
Negative infinity.
Negative infinity, and what's the highest possible y value I'm going to come up against? 41 over 8, which means that y has to be less than or equal to 41 over 8. And we already did this part of it, which is going to be the vertex line. Do you see what I see?
You just like all these.
Now, this is problem 31 on tonight's homework. I can sit down. I don't have to do any more. Would you like me to do your homework with you?
But I took up all the room in the next box for this.
Aww, right, Scholar, do it underneath. Just an idea, get another sheet of paper. Okay, what do I have to do first here?
A, B, and C.
A, B, and C. So if I need to find A, B, and C, what is A? 9 over 4. What's B? What's C? Negative 1. What's my x coordinate? X is equal to negative B over 2A. Negative times 3 over 2 times 9/4. Okay? Just want to do a quick little sidebar over here just to explain this. Negative 3 over 2 times 9/4. 2 becomes a 1, the 4 becomes a 2, so I have negative 3 divided by 9 over 2. Negative 3 written horizontally, negative 3 is divided by 9 over 2. When you divide by a fraction, what are you actually doing? Multiplying by its reciprocal, which gives me 2 over 9. Put the 3 over 1, that gives me a negative 1, that gives me a positive 3 to give me negative 2/3. Your brain should do that.
But it doesn't. My brain's not that smart.
So if your brain refuses to do that, then you're going to simply type in negative 3 divided by parentheses 2 times 9 divided by 4. And hit enter. And it gives you exactly the same fraction I got over here on the marker board, which is negative 2/3. Yes?
So like, if we don't have one of these calculators, we have to do all this in our head.
You should be able to do that on a regular calculator, like an OGC calculator, because it can do fractions. Yes? So quit whining. Quit, love. And that gives you negative 2/3 is your x, which is your h value. I meant it. Just slightly. Now what do I need to find?
Your y coordinate.
Your y coordinate. So how do I find my y coordinate? That's f at negative 2/3. So that's going to be 9/4 times negative 2/3 squared plus 3 times negative 2/3 minus 1. So I go back to my graphing calculator and I type it in. 9 divided by 4, parentheses, negative 2 divided by 3, arrow to the right, squared, plus 3, parentheses, negative 2 divided by 3, arrow to the right,
I like to see you do
minus
that.
1. Huh?
I like to see you do that in your head.
Don't ask her.
Enter,
Negative 2.
negative 2.
Did you?
I always show work. I'm so used to showing you guys work that whenever I'm asked to do a problem, I immediately have to show the work. To give you negative 2. So I come back over here, and I get that y is equal to negative 2, which is equal to the k value. So now that I found x and I found y, what should I locate first?
Your vertex.
I would do my vertex form. So my vertex form is going to be y is equal to a times x minus h squared plus k. So what was a? 9 over 4 x minus, what's h? Negative 2/3. What's negative 2/3 turn into? Positive 2/3 squared, and k is going to be minus 2. So from there, what do I get? My vertex is geometry is?
X equals.
X equals negative 2/3. Good. And then is it a max or a min? It's a min because it's positive, which means now my range is going to be what? If it's a minimum, that means I have a valley. So what's the smallest y value I'm going to approach first?
Negative infinity.
Negative 2 is the first value I'm going to come to. And then where is the largest value I'm going to get to?
Infinity.
Which says that y has to be greater than or equal to negative 2. Do we all understand this? Oh. Now, here's tonight's homework for you.
How problems?
We're already done doing this for you.
Like 15.
Oh, man. Uh-oh.
Okay. Now, on the front. Front is already in standard form, so all I gotta do is up, down, left, right. Yes? Stretch, compress, and all that jazz and tell me. Okay? Turn it over. On the back, that's the thing we're gonna get hairy for you. But I already did 13 and 31, so you only have 4 problems on the back to do. We understand that?
Yes.
Any questions over tonight's homework? Okay, we are now out of here for another 5 minutes, yes?
We're out at 41.
Get busy.
4 minutes. That's 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
Think of how much you can get done.